Welcome to Coaching in Session,
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary,
unlock your potential,
and step boldly into your next chapter.
Your mindset journey continues.
Welcome, Dr. Darren Clair, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
So glad to have you on. We're going to be talking about your work and how you help people understand health and how preventative care can be a part of their life. Because I think what happens with people in health today, if it's not a problem, it's not on their docket, it's not on their plate, it's not on their radar, they don't want to deal with it. I always talk about health being like a problem with your car. And I'm sure you know about this. If there's something wrong with your car, you don't take it to the mechanic, you raise up the car volume on the radio.
Yes.
You don't want to deal with it today. You don't want to deal with it tomorrow. And it's something that we all have to understand. If we don't deal with it, one day it's just going to get to the breaking point where we fall apart and we wonder, where do we go wrong? And today is going to be that turning point for a lot of people to say, hey, let me reverse how I'm thinking and start to put my health first. If you could, Dr. Clair, can you please tell the world who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help people?
Okay, great. Well, I'm an MD, a medical doctor, and my practice is called Vibrance Health, and we have a number of programs which are all based around trying to help people maximize their health, regardless of what their current health is, regardless of their age. The truth of the matter is that good health is always available to us, or at least let's say better health, at least, and typically good health is available to us if we do what I call reading the instruction book. And that's in the book that I recently released, Creating a Life of Vibrance. It's all about helping people remember that you were born with an instruction book. And it's kind of like, an IKEA. If you try and build one of those IKEA dressers without using the book, you're going to end up with a few extra screws or more depending on how you do. But again, and I understand why people wait to go to the doctor, and I think it's unfortunate because a lot of times people either think that I'm lazy or, there's something wrong. But the truth of the matter is I think we always need to examine what's going on through the lens of the life of our ancestors. Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers live in a world where food is scarce. And so therefore, it's not you don't want to necessarily expend energy unless it's necessary, because you may already be operating with an empty stomach, and energy, chasing down an animal is going to cause, you're going to burn more calories, so we're kind of designed to minimize our energy expenditure. And so I think that pervades all aspects of life. And these days, especially the way the medical system has been designed in this country, it's all about treating sick people. Doctors get paid to treat sick people. Doctors don't get paid, and I can attest to this, they don't get paid to keep people healthy, right? And that's why you go to a doctor and, you've got, and I see this all the time with women, they'll go to the doctor because, they've gained some weight, they can't lose it like they used to, they're cold, their hair is thinner, their skin is dry, and, they go on Google and they say, oh, wow, it looks like I might have a thyroid problem. I'm going to go to my doctor. So, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, all right, well, we'll check your thyroid. And they do a blood test. So the blood test comes back in the normal range. And the doctor says, your thyroid's fine. And, so you just got to either eat less or work out more. And again, it's just because this doctor is not looking to optimize health. It's just trying to rule out anything that's really seriously wrong.
Mm.
And the problem with that is, hey, guess what, Michael? Everybody's different. And as a result of that, the normal range is very broad. The example I like to use is I have a guy who comes into the office here, Mike, he's 7 feet 4 inches tall, right? I mean, when I stand up and I put my hand up, the top of my finger is at the top of his head. It's like he's so tall. But I also have people come in that are 4 feet tall, right? They're both normal. They're just different, but they're very different. And the same thing goes for every lab test. Everybody varies a lot. And so as a result, the normal range is very broad because the labs, they got to go, well, some people need very little thyroid. Some people need a lot. So I guess we better keep them in the normal range. So the normal range includes almost everybody. In fact, by definition, the normal range includes 95% of all people, not 95% of healthy people, 95% of everybody. So 95% is almost everybody, right? Basically, everybody's in the normal range by that blood test. For a doctor to have a person come in and with all the symptoms of a thyroid problem, but their numbers are in the normal range, for him to say your thyroid's fine it's not good healthcare, because he's treating the person like a machine, like a number, as opposed to an individual who might not fit into, just because they're in the normal range doesn't mean they're operating at their full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Michael, it comes back to the fact that due to the way the healthcare works, medical care, I don't call it healthcare, medical care, the way it works in our country is doctors get paid by insurance companies, and not very much anymore. So they have to see a lot of people in order to be able to keep the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
So they just want to get to here's the blood test, here's the result, here's the answer. I'll see you in 3 months, or I'll see you in 6 months, right? Which is just such a shame, because it's really not treating people as whole individuals.
Yeah, I had to deal with a sick boy this morning. My son, he's 3. He had a fever, so didn't let him go to school today. He stayed home. And my sister, she's over dramatic. She has 2 girls. I have a boy and a girl. And she was like, you have to take him to the doctor. I'm like, for what? For them to tell me stuff I already know? And she was like, well, he was sick on Monday and he's still sick. And I'm like, well, he went to school and then something happened at school. And it's a mess at school. It's like there's so much sickness going around where it seems like you put your kid in school one day, the next day you get them back there, they got something, right? There's this bug, there's this flu, there's these boogers, and it's insane on how sick the children are. And I understand they're young, their immune system is adapting to the world that we're living in. But this is to say that let's fast forward a bit, because kids don't listen to my podcast. It's adults. It's people who are in careers, people who are interested in understanding and their health, or how can they be better. But if this medical care system is so keen on focusing on the illness, why would people want to go see a doctor? I don't want to hear bad news. I don't know if you remember when you were in school and you got your report card, you had to go log in to see your grades. Right. If you know you didn't do that well, you weren't like, oh, excited. I'm excited to go look at my grades. No, you're not. So people know they might not be doing the right things. They might not be eating the right foods. And there's a fear there for them to go talk to a doctor or to go see somebody and say, hey, I just want to check in. What does that look like for people on the other side, where if they fail to check in and then they get to the point where they have no choice but to check in, or just attaining the mindset to want to check in more, and it's not for the fear of a doctor saying what's wrong with them, but maybe for the benefit of them saying everything is good.
Yeah, which, and it should be that way, Michael. And that's the way I try and run my practice. And, along those lines, I always say to people, look, I have no bad news to give you, because no matter what is going on, there is a solution. Our bodies, God designed us to be healthy. He did not design us to be broken, developing diabetes and heart disease and whatnot. That's because we don't take care of ourselves. Again, we don't read the instruction book. We live these crazy lives. Again, I'll just diverge for a moment here, getting back to the whole hunter-gatherer idea. Hunter-gatherers, on average, the modern ones, and we can assume that our ancestors led a similar life, but hunter-gatherer societies, typically they work for 4 hours a day. Okay? Wouldn't it be nice to have a 4-hour workday, right? Yeah. But on top of that, what does that 4-hour workday look like? It's walking through the forest looking for berries, right? It's like, I don't know about you, but that would be a vacation to me, right? And on top of that, that means that they had 20 hours a day where they were either sleeping or relaxing from their hard workday, right?
Hmm.
That's not the life we live. We are so much busier and under so much more stress. And the media just exacerbates it in their, they're just trying to sell, commercials. And so using shock value is the way they do it. So everything is bad. Everything is bad. It's like, here in Southern California, they're talking about having rain the next couple of days. It's like storm watch 2026. We might get 1/4 inch of rain, right? This is California, right? So yes, we do occasionally have heavy rains, but generally we don't get much rain, right? But they have to build it up into something exciting. So it just gets kind of crazy. So our stress levels are very high. And that's getting back to your original idea is when you go to the doctor, you're expecting the worst, right? That's why it's like the report card. You're like, I don't want to face this. But the truth of the matter is no matter what it is, there is a healthy solution. I don't care what it is. If it's cancer, if it's heart disease, arthritis, diabetes, all of these things can be largely managed or even cured with a healthier lifestyle. And, for me, that has really sank in recently when I read an article, a research paper that was done out of the University of San Diego, where they were looking at people in hospice, people who were about to die, right? And they were doing scans on their brains. And they found out that even at that very last moment, people are making new brain cells and making new connections between their brain cells. Even at the very end, their body is trying to heal. So we have amazing healing potential that we're not tapping into because we go to the doctor and they give us a pill, which generally, most of the time, Michael, it's just a Band-Aid. It's not getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you get to the root cause of the problem, generally there's a solution, even with the big ones like cancer and whatnot. Cancer, to me, is just, first of all, you've had cancer, I've had cancer. Everybody has had cancer cells, right? But typically our immune system is strong enough to catch them and eliminate them before they can start multiplying, right? So it's just, to me, it's just a sign that the body is out of balance. And we need to really take a good look at how that person is living their life, what they're eating, how they're sleeping, and really help them restore that natural healing potential.
I think we're going to be diving into your book with this next question. So feel free to refer to your book in this question, because we talked about healthy lifestyle. We talked about balance. And this is just leading people now to what is a healthy lifestyle? What does that look like? Because I'm sure when we ask people to eat healthy, they think, oh, I have to eat a salad and chicken and broccoli, and that's it, right? I can't go out and enjoy the things that I love, like pasta and cake and sweets and ice cream. Like, they can have a whole list of things that they like. But the healthy foods, right, that are associated with what people, keep people healthy long term, think of bodybuilders, just chicken and broccoli, like rice, chicken and broccoli. That's what they eat, right? Carnivore diet. They have all these fad diets now. So people choose what the healthy lifestyle is for them. And to an extent, we can go put this in a spectrum and be very broad, or we could be very individualized because, as you said early on, people are different, right? No one is going to be the same. Some people might have a tolerance to something or intolerance to it. So someone can eat pasta and be fine, and some people can't eat pasta, and if they do, they'll have big problems. A lot of allergies happening today, gluten, etc. So people are trying now to saying, okay, I have to adjust for this. I have to do this. And the balance is kind of off because they're not looking at macros. They're not looking at what their body needs. They're just kind of going off from all of the things that they have heard in their life. And I can imagine in your book, Creating a Life of Vibrance, there is going to be some of that conversation helping people understand what they need to do.
Yeah, very good point, Michael. And yes, in my book, Creating a Life of Vibrance, I actually wrote it to try and be like a basic introductory primer for health. And I did go into nutrition and whatnot. And I specifically was not too specific for the very reasons you just brought up. But also because, if you wanted to go down all those rabbit holes, the book would end up being 1,000 pages. And nobody's going to read it. Even me, and I do it for a living, I wouldn't read it, right? So I realized, look, we just got to start with some basics and then let people experiment and see what's working for them. But having said that, in terms of our dietary choices, again, what did our ancestors do? Well, first of all, our ancestors ate zero processed foods because it didn't exist back then. There were no additives. There was no, none of that. No preservatives, nothing like that. So eating as close to nature as possible, eating, ideally foods with one ingredient, lettuce, beef, fish, tomato, as opposed to, the typical label of, when you go into the store has got 20, ingredients, some of which are for coloring, some of which are preservatives, some are for, just eliminating those, because the problem with those is it takes a long time, hundreds, thousands of generations before a new diet can be introduced and your body learns how to properly, utilize all those things that are in that food. If we're still around, in 1,000 years, then who knows? McDonald's may actually be a healthy food.
A gourmet meal.
Our bodies will have learned how to deal with it, right? But so eating as close to nature as possible, our ancestors ate a very wide variety of food because, again, they couldn't just go to the market and get, organic chicken and organic broccoli every day. First of all, they had to find it, and in winter they're not going to find any broccoli, and who knows if they'll find chicken. So as a result, they were forced to eat a wide variety. The average American eats 10 to 15 different foods, and often very healthy versions of those foods, but only 10 to 15, where our ancestors ate over 100 different types of, food every year, because, the season, what was available, where they were, so they were forced to eat a whole variety. And again, the way evolution works is that get actually built into our DNA as the healthy life and the healthy diet. The micronutrients that are in 100 different foods is very different than the micronutrients that are in 10 foods, right? So all those micronutrients are as important as the macronutrients that we all tend to focus on. But anyway, so staying as close to nature, avoiding processed foods. I have nothing against meat, provided it's pasture raised and not been shot up with, antibiotics and hormones and things like that. Chicken is great too, as long as it's, again, been pasture raised, eating what chickens are supposed to eat, not whatever happens to be fed to them. I mean, the same thing happens with fish these days. You want to eat fish, but unless you're a millionaire, the only fish you can afford these days is farm raised. And what do they feed them at the farms? Corn, grain and things like that, which is not what fish normally live on, right? And so they're turning this amazingly healthy form of protein into something that actually causes inflammation and is not so healthy anymore. But, the wild caught fish is expensive, So eating close to nature, eating a wide variety. I think another problem we have is, again, partly due to the fact that we're so busy, Michael, we don't take time to actually have a meal. So many people eat in front of their computer at work. Their breakfast is something they're eating on the way to work. When they're having dinner, it's, it's after they've picked up their kids from their after school activity, and they're, so the problem is you are still in the stress mode. You're in the fight or flight mode when you're trying to eat and nourish your body. And the problem with that is the stress mode, again, for our ancestors, that meant they were being chased by a tiger, right? So in that instance, you don't think about, am I getting what I need, for tomorrow, so I'll feel healthy tomorrow. You're just hoping you're going to be alive tomorrow, right? So your body actually basically turns off your digestive system. It's just like, who cares about digesting if you're trying to survive, right? So you don't even get the full nutritional value of the food because typically you're eating too fast, your enzymes have not been properly released due to your body's going hell with digestion. We gotta stay sharp here. We gotta watch out for that tiger. And so we're not even getting the nutritional value, and we tend to overeat as well, as I just said, because we're not really chewing our food, breaking bread with each other, not just for the nutritional, but not for the emotional value of sitting down with somebody and having a meal and breaking bread with them. Again, that has many benefits from an emotional standpoint, but also because you slow down, you move into the rest and digest mode, so you get the full nutritional as well as emotional food, if you will, from a proper meal. That often doesn't happen. And again, like I say, you eat fast and you overeat. You don't give your stomach time to tell your brain, okay, we're full. You don't have to eat anymore. And again, the food industry is incredibly effective, and they realize if they add some more sugar, they add some more salt, it's going to be really tasty, and so you're just going to gobble it down because it's so good, right? So another reason why you eat too much, coming back to your original question, you want to eat close to nature. You want to eat a wide variety of foods. You want to take the time to really digest and only eat as much as you need. Don't eat until you're full. Eat until you're no longer hungry, right? Because overeating is again, it's an epidemic for all the reasons we just mentioned. The food is designed to make you want to eat more. It's like a drug, really, and we don't take the time to properly have a meal. Again, our ancestors had 20 hours a day, so they were not in any rush to eat their meal, right? It was like, what are we going to do after dinner? We'll stare at the fire. I mean,
Yeah. Look at the stars.
Look at the stars. It's just so they were not in a big rush. And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with the lifestyle we live today, but it's just not the life we were designed for. I mean, the analogy I always use, which is not perfect, but I think it kind of helps. It's like having this amazing race car, right? This Ferrari that's just amazing. If you put olive oil in the gas tank, it's not gonna run, right? There's nothing wrong with olive oil, but it's not what that car is designed for. And so much of what we are doing is not what our bodies were designed for, right? And we unfortunately we've become so convinced that if things aren't going well, then I probably need to do more of something, right? And it may be that, but often as not, Michael, it's, well, is it that, or do we need to stop doing some of these things that we've decided are so important? Scrolling on our phone, looking at our friends, what they're doing, looking at Instagram, looking at the news, looking at do we really need to do that? Does it really help us in any way in terms of the quality of our life? I think a lot of it's just negatively affecting the quality of our life.
Yeah, it's the superficial aspect of it.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people, I think they're caught up in the world or society and they don't want to change. For example, when I got married, it was easy to implement the systems I wanted for the house. We're going to eat together. There's no phones at the table. There's no phones while we're driving. Things like this. Like, it seems like common sense to me. But then again, you look at other people and they just do it. Right.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I go out with my wife and the kids. We go out to eat at a restaurant, be a nice restaurant. And parents are just giving the phones to their kids to distract them. Right. Yep. What's going to happen to those children as they grow up is they're going to associate me eating with my phone. And we know that you're going to consume more while you're watching a movie or a video, your phone, and you're distracted, you're not paying attention to what's going on, because it takes 15 minutes for the brain to recognize it's full. So if you eat too fast or if you're distracted, you're not going to recognize that you're full. So we do have an overeating problem. And then again, you're overeating processed foods. That's another layer. There's a lot of things that people have to change, and a lot of people don't like change. They don't want to say, oh man, I have to give up my favorite foods. Oh man, I have to stop eating this. Oh man, I have to start doing this. For a lot of people, that change can be a killer for them. Just like, I would rather just do this. I can't tell you how many people I know that they are overweight and they say, I just don't want to exercise. I just don't want to eat healthy. I'm just going to die this way. They have this very negative and pessimistic type of mind. I can't imagine how many people are like that, where they are in that realm of, hey, I already walked down this path. I already started. It's too much work to change everything. Why would I even bother? Because again, the brain is trying to conserve energy, is trying to keep everything easy and smooth, because in the event if they, ever fight or flight, they have to run, but they can't run because they're out of shape. They don't recognize that, right? Oh man, a lion's coming after me, right? Okay, great. Oh, I can't run, right? Because I'm winded already. So it's like, exactly. So it's like we're working against the brain. The brain doesn't recognize, if I want to be able to survive a dangerous situation, and we don't live in a world where there's so many dangerous situations. But again, there could be. Then it's going to realize like, oops, I messed up. But then again, our message today can be, hey, let's pay attention to what's going on. So it's not that oops when it happens. It's like, I'm ready for whatever happens. Yes, we are living in a different world today. We don't have to worry about saber-toothed tigers and, like all these things trying to come kill us. But this is something that we have to understand. We have to understand our eating habits. We have to understand the foods that we're putting into our system. And we have to understand the end goal as well. What type of life do you want to live? Because I can't imagine speaking to a grandparent and saying, do you want to be able to run with your grandchildren? Yes or no? And they say no. It's astounding how people are thinking today.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with everything you're saying, Michael. I think part of it is and I think this is just natural too, unfortunately. It's the fear of the unknown, right? It's just like, I have this food, I really like it. It makes me feel good when I eat it, and you want me to give it up? Well, what's that going to be like? And what I tell people is, you don't have to give it all up. Just start with a little bit. Start with, if you like to have dessert every night, just, one night a week, skip the dessert. Start with there. Start with wherever you are. And, once you get in that habit, then you know what? I can do without dessert every night. Maybe I'll just have it once in a while. I grew up in a family where, my parents would buy Coca-Cola by the case, right? We would have ice cream after dinner every night. It wasn't, and again, that's just what everybody did in those days, right? We're talking 60 years ago now, right? But we just didn't know. But since I have adopted my current lifestyle, which I still have a glass of wine every once in a while. I'll still, if it's a birthday, I'll have a piece of cake. Once in a blue moon, I'll have some ice cream or something like that. But honestly, I find that when I eat that food, my body has actually adjusted so that I don't feel good when I eat that. I actually feel better when I eat properly. And I know that when I wake up the next day, I'm going to feel fine. I was at Thanksgiving dinner with my daughters live in Colorado, so I was visiting them for Thanksgiving, and they had some other friends over for this Thanksgiving dinner, and I was talking to this delightful couple. They're mid-30s, and they asked me about what I do and blah blah blah, and how old are you? And they said, "Wow, that's great." It's just like they said to me, "You mean when you wake up in the morning, you don't have like aches and pains?" And honestly, Michael, it didn't even occur to me that was unusual, because I don't wake up with aches and pains. I wake up feeling great. Let's go. I feel fine, even though I'm 72 years old. But it occurred to me, it's like, that's actually the new norm, is to wake up feeling crummy. And it's so unfortunate, because You don't have to. And to me, getting to bed at a decent time and eating cleanly so the next day when I wake up, I feel like, okay, it's great. It's a new day. Let's go. To me, that is worth so much. There's nothing, there's no food that is going to keep me from feeling that way. You know what I mean? It's really addictive to wake up every day, just feel good. Aches and pains, I didn't even know that people have those. I was like, wow, that's weird that I don't have them. No, it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, it's insane how people can just assume. I know when I was in my teens, I had some sciatica issues because I was very stubborn, right? I got hurt training for 5K. I said, I'm still going to run the 5K. Mistake number one. Mistake number one there. And I learned the hard way where it took years to recover from that because it was just, I put so much stress and strain on my body because I didn't do one 5K, I did two. It was back to back. So it was rough. And I remember when I was, because I was a teacher before, I was walking down the hallway and I remember having to take Advil just to be able to walk. Like the sciatica was that bad. And I was like, I'm 23. I'm like, do I have to do this for the rest of my life? I was like, this is not good. And I was, I went to Google, of course, like what everyone does. I went to Google and I said, what's the long-term effect of taking Advil or like a pain reliever? And they were like, yeah, it's going to be problems for your liver and kidneys. And I was like, oh, that's probably not good things. So I said, let me fix this. I said, let me go figure out what I needed to do. Went to my doctor. He had recommended for me to start to do more stretches. He had all these different stretches for me. I started doing yoga, Bikram. And from there, I started the healing process. And now I look back at it and I'm like, thank God I did something back then, because living with that pain today, it would probably be unbearable. And then I would probably be numb to it at this point, saying, oh man, this is just me waking up every day and I can barely move. And I just see people now in the gym when they're like 64 or even in their 80s, they're just like, some of them look better than me. I say, what's your secret? And they tell me they eat well, they work out, they stay away from the bad foods. And it's like, you can see the model right there. But many people decide I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm just going to focus on the things I like, right? I'm going to focus on the drama. I'm going to focus on the news telling me, the store watch news saying, doom and gloom, right? I'm from Connecticut originally. And every single time there was a snowstorm, everyone had to get a new shovel. Everyone had to get ice, de-icer. Everyone had to go buy bread and milk and peanut butter and jelly because they were like, what if we get snowed in? And I'm just thinking in my mind, didn't you go grocery shopping already in the beginning of the week to get all the foods that you need? You should have the bread if you eat bread, or eggs, milk. You should have all of these things. But people are very reactive. So they respond to the negative stimulus of what someone can say, like, this is bad for you, or this is something you have to watch out for, and they will. And people are also very attracted to something that's very quick and easy. That's why many people are going for surgeries. They're going for fad diets. So they want Ozempic and all of these things. We don't necessarily know the long-term ramifications to these things. But what I can tell you from seeing some of my family members go get some bypass surgeries and things like that, they are not in good places right now. They're struggling. They're suffering. And I'm just thinking in my mind, why would you put yourself in this scenario when you could just have given yourself a scenario for 1 to 2 years and saying, hey, I'm going to get my act together? Why are so many people in the mind of, I would rather get the quick fix, give me the pill, give me the Band-Aid, I don't want to do the hard work?
Yeah. And honestly, Michael, I think it's not totally their fault. They've never learned otherwise, and doctors will not tell them otherwise. I have so many people who come in and they're, they do have aches and pains or whatever. And they just say, well, my doctor told me it's because I'm old. And it's a bunch of baloney. It's age, AGE. In my mind, that stands for another good excuse, because it's just not the case. We are designed to be healthy, and all these things that are normal for our age, like high blood pressure. It's like, no, that's common, but it's not normal. We're not designed to have high blood pressure and have heart attacks. That's not the way God designed us. Due to our lifestyle, that's what's happening. It's so unfortunate. And then, again, it comes back to, in my opinion, people are afraid of what they're giving up. But if they take one little step at a time, they can find that actually what they gain by living a healthy lifestyle is worth what they're giving up. And to your point as well, in terms of people looking for the easy way out. For instance, with trying to lose weight and not wanting to exercise. Well, yes, if you exercise, that will help you lose weight. But not only that, exercise helps keep your bones strong, prevents osteoporosis. It prevents diabetes. It keeps your brain sharp, so it helps prevent dementia. It's very important for keeping your immune system strong. So, you're getting all of these benefits. Whereas if you take a diet pill, you maybe will lose weight. Chances are you won't. But even if you do lose weight, you're not helping your brain. You're not preventing diabetes. You're not keeping your bones strong. You're not keeping your immune system strong. So, again, we are so perfectly designed. The more I learn, Michael, the more amazed I am at the depth of the levels of overlap in terms of the way our bodies are so interconnected that it's hard to talk about because it's so complicated and so perfectly. It's such a perfect symphony that you go to a doctor and he wants the horn section to play louder. It's just like, yeah, but it's a symphony, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can hear the horns, but what about all the other instruments? They're getting drowned out. And the symphony sounds a whole lot better when everybody's playing in tune at the proper volume, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I remember because I studied music. We had it was a strings class, so we had cellos, violas, violins, basses, and we played 4 seasons. And when you practice by yourself, you're just practicing. You just hear your one part. But when you put it together, it's like, wow, everything is working out. It's like we were done after we played the first time together. We were like, we all looked around. We were like, wow, that's beautiful. Like the harmony. All that's to say is that there is a harmony for ourselves, for our body and our mind. And it takes some effort in our world today to really figure out what that harmony is for you, because what works for someone might not work for you. And you have to do the work to figure out what is for you. And a lot of people don't want to do the work. And I'm sure the work that you do is helping people understand it's okay to go on that journey to investigate who you are, what you need, because living a life of vibrance is not going to be, all right, this is your success, this is your goal, this is your happiness. It's going to be different across the board. So people have to get a hold of that and understand that. And our conversation was definitely just touching the surface of what health is or what preventative care is. There's just so much more to it. And what I would love for, from you is to give us some final words, some final thoughts that people can walk away with today into their day, into their life. And then please tell people how they can find you, also how they can purchase your book. And, from there, hopefully they can start to be in a more healthy body and mind.
Okay. Well, yes, I think in terms of to help people on this journey, health is a journey. Health is not a destination. I would definitely recommend my book. Again, not just because, again, I tried to make it something that's easily accessible to all of us without being so heavily laden with details and whatnot that you get kind of lost in the forest. But it's just a general introduction to how to take care of your body. Creating a life of vibrance. I would say that wherever you are in your journey, don't believe any doctor that tells you, there's nothing we can do, or that, the only way to manage this is with us. And sometimes you do need surgery. Sometimes you do need medications, but much less often than you might think. And having been in practice now for 40 years, I can tell you that it's the truth. Generally, if you start on this journey, start with whatever wherever you are, and make little steps every day, and be consistent, you can have fantastic health. If you're not working out, just buy a pair of running shoes. And then the next week, just start by just putting them on, and then try and get out the door for 5 minutes. If you're addicted to, fast food and whatnot, okay, just say, you know what, one day a week, I'm gonna eat, just something really simple and clean, and see how that works. Whatever it is, just start wherever you are and make little consistent steps, and you'll be amazed at the difference you can make. I was very fortunate, Michael, a number of years ago for my 60th birthday, which is, again, a number of years ago now. I went on a safari in Africa, and we were right there in the Serengeti, which is amazing. It's life-changing. It's so beautiful and so lush and whatnot. And I learned from one of our guides that the whole reason for this beautiful, beautiful environment comes down to the existence of this little beetle, dung beetle. And it's a big beetle. This dung beetle has created the Serengeti. And the animals, nothing. And this dung beetle goes around collecting little balls of elephant dung and rolls these little balls for like miles. And by doing so has spread, seeds and whatnot. Of course, the elephant dung, poop is very, it's like a fertilizer. So this little beetle and all of the dung beetles doing this little thing every day has created paradise in Africa. So it's a kind of an odd analogy, but for me, it's just like proves that little steps taken on a consistent basis can do amazing things. And the same thing is true for your health. Start with the basics, eat clean, try and get a little bit of exercise, try and get enough sleep, try and put down, the things that are stressing you out, like your phone and whatnot. Have some quality time with your family, by not being on the phone, not scrolling while you're talking to somebody. All those little things, just work on them. Be patient with yourself, but be tough on yourself to be consistent. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's kind of my philosophy. Seems to be working for me. If people are interested in more about how they can be healthy and want to check me out, again, my practice is called Vibrance Health. The website is Vibrance, VIBRANCE, health.com. We post on Instagram and Facebook and that sort of stuff too. So that can also give you some more information. But we do have our website, do a lot of telemedicine. So even though we're in Southern California, I see patients actually all around the world, which is kind of cool. Again, check out my book, Creating a Life of Vibrance. It's available on Amazon. You can get it, either as a paperback, hardback, as a digital copy. And again, trust that you do have everything you need to be healthy. You just gotta start using it.
Perfect. And I'm going to make it easy for everyone. All the links are right down below, so you don't have to worry about spelling. It's just a click away to a better mind, a better body, better health overall. I understand you might have been dealing with some health problems, or maybe you're fearful to face the piper of the report card of your health. But don't be afraid. Don't be uninterested in yourself, because long term, you're going to be more thankful for the actions you take today than waiting for something to fall apart and to be a big deal later on. So I encourage everyone to pick up their copy of Creating a Life of Vibrance to learn more about what Dr. Clair is doing in his work and in the world. And from there, hopefully creating the platform that's not going to only help their life, but every generation that comes after them. So Dr. Clair, I want to thank you so much for coming on, spending some time, and of course, talking about your work today.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure to be here.